Hello, everybody out there.
All 24 Instagram followers.
All right. I'm surprised we have that many. So, welcome to the Dumpweed Diaries. We don't know exactly what this is going to be, but essentially we wanted to get together and talk about music.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to start or how to get into this.
Well, there's a lot of dumbass podcasts out there, and I feel like we can at least make one that's just as dumb as those ones.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool to just kind of talk about what kind of led us down the path. And first of all, what made us want to play music. For those that don't know, Steve and I actually played in numerous bands. We were very young, long time ago.
They're very mediocre.
That was the best part about it, though. We
Yeah.
played some awesome shows with some very mediocre people and some very mediocre bands at some very mediocre venues, but they were all fucking so fun.
I had a very mediocre haircut at the time, too, which is fantastic.
So did we all.
I kind of miss it, though, because I'm kind of losing it up top now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Aren't we all?
Anyways, so to give you some background, me and Jared both born 1988. So to give you an idea, 1999, which is kind of where we wanted to start, that puts us at about 11 years old.
Yep.
Now, neither of us had any older siblings, so our taste in music was basically kind of framed by our parents and whatever we found at the time.
Yeah, it was a lot of I mean, I'm not speaking for you, although I know a lot of classic rock.
Yeah.
I mean, from my point of view, it was a lot of the Eagles, a lot of James Taylor, Neil Young was a big one. And I know probably similar for you. You listen to a lot more classic stuff.
Yeah. My dad was big into Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago's his favorite band. All those classic rock bands. But it was, essentially the same stuff. You know, there's some country in there, I think, as well.
Shania. Shout out Shania.
Oh, beauty.
Right, all through the 90s. I remember listening. Shania was I remember her being like every third music video on like CMT network.
Yes.
And it was constant.
Her in your kitchen on that little TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her and Faith Hill.
Oh,
just shredding the 90s.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where, I mean, beyond that, I guess where we kind of started, I guess we can kind of touch on, I don't know, I remember my first album I ever purchased with like my own money. I guess I may have been grade 4 or 5, some paper route money.
Right? Oh, yeah. The Era Banner. Shout out Newmarket, Ontario.
Newmarket Era Banner. It was Nimrod by Green Day. And I honestly couldn't tell you of any other purchases between then and then receiving the Enema of the State album in grade 6, which would have been 99?
Right.
99, I think.
So were you listening to any of the pop stuff before that? Because I remember before I got into any of the stuff that I like to listen to, it was all pop. Like I had Britney Spears, I had the Backstreet Boys albums, I had all that junk. I had Dance Mix 95 on cassette.
I had Dance Mix 96 on cassette. I remember receiving like a little boombox, and we had the dance mixes. But I definitely had, wasn't an NSYNC guy. I was a Backstreet Boys guy for sure.
Yeah.
I had their first 2 albums, and I also ended up. I remember owning Spice Girls.
Oh yeah.
But who didn't?
Yeah, exactly. You had the little, what did they have at the stores there? The little packs of gum with the pictures in it?
Dude, I used to collect those.
Yeah.
I used to have the stickers. I don't know where they are. They were in a little lunchbox somewhere, probably up in my dad's garage.
Right. Probably worth a lot of money now. Or nothing at all. Who knows?
Probably nothing.
Probably nothing.
But we'll see.
So, essentially somewhere, we started getting into, our current musical taste and what kind of framed things for high school. Now, I want to touch base on what I think did it for me. So 1997, I got this fantastic album, Hanson, Middle of Nowhere. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
You love the Hanson brothers.
I will talk about this till I die. It is a fantastic album. It has 5 singles on it. And these guys at the time were 16 max. The oldest was 16. It's a fantastic album, I'm telling you. There is a song, end of the album, it's called Man from Milwaukee. It's fucking ridiculous. But you know what? It had some distortion on it. It had some great harmonies going.
They all could sing.
Yes.
Yeah, they could all sing.
Yeah. And I knew that's kind of what my jam was going to be.
Yeah, and you know what? It was poppy. It was pop, but it definitely had enough rock in there. You know what I'm also remembering too right now is the I don't know, do you remember the Moffats?
Yes.
I believe they're Canadian.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I don't know where from. Vancouver? Or are they Toronto? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They're Canadian. But I remember their one hit, and I didn't know it was the Moffats until I ended up finding out on the radio. But what was the single? It's got Mona Lisa in the beginning, the first line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, yeah, they had a bop. I was into that. I was also into some of the Hanson hits, but not nearly as much as you.
Oh, I had the poster. I had a book. I had a book.
What book did they release?
I don't know. It was a little chapter book with some pictures in it. It was, I don't know. And I went to the show at Canada's Wonderland.
Hanson played Canada's Wonderland?
They played Canada's Wonderland. I think that was my first concert, actually.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what my first concert was, honestly. Show? I don't know. I definitely went to, you and I went to a bunch of shows in town.
Yes, we did.
I don't know if those would have been my first concerts. I was probably much younger. But anyway, yeah, no, I think it was, yeah, I listened to a ton of that pop stuff too. It was a lot of the Ace of Base. I'm trying to think of what was on those mixtapes.
Oh, the 1, 2, 3 Train with Me. Remember that song? That was a banger.
Ace of Base, Savage Garden.
I could play that on piano.
What, Savage Garden?
Yeah.
What song?
I can't remember what
just
it's called.
Just Savage Garden.
I will sit down at a piano right now. I'll play you some Savage Garden. It's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously there's a lot of pop going on at this time.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you listen to as a kid. It's on the radio. But that was kind of the first thing that, you know, was really our own that our parents didn't listen to, I guess, right?
No, it was, yeah, I mean, they're familiar with the hype and the popularity of that pop stuff. Beyond, I think it was a little bit beyond the whole the dance mixes. It wasn't until I think like Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and then that popularity started to grow big time. But then that kind of led us into, before that, I was never really, I'd never really listened to the old punk music that existed in that time.
No.
I didn't know about it.
No, and I think we ended up going back to it, after 92.
Yeah.
You know, the music industry essentially, let me nerd out for a second here. So they had this thing called SoundScan, right? That came in 92. So apparently record charts before this time, they were just calling around to different record stores figuring out what was selling.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of bribery, a lot of bullshit. That's why you get a lot of pop. And then they figured out, once the SoundScan thing came into fruition, it was, look at what's selling. And it was Nevermind by Nirvana. Mm-hmm. And then from that, the record companies started buying up all these punk bands. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Nirvana being on the radio. Again, I don't remember ever owning that album. I never really got into grunge in the 90s.
No.
I got into grunge much later on, but it wasn't when that whole grunge scene out of Seattle took off. I think maybe I was just too young.
Yeah, we were definitely too young. That was like early 90s.
Yeah.
But there are some great pop punk albums, you know, before we started paying attention, like the Splinter from the Offspring.
I was gonna mention the Offspring. The Offspring, even Green Day was before I started listening to Green Day.
Yeah,
like I never owned the Dookie album on its release. I didn't get into Green Day till Nimrod, which I believe was the album after. The album after Dookie.
They had, it was Insomniac after that. They had I think Dookie was around 93, 94.
Yeah, because Nimrod was 97.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what even sparked me to want that album. I think I've mentioned this before. I think it was probably The Time of Your Life.
Right.
that you're like the most iconic like graduation song,
Yeah.
which is a really ironic way to, I guess, come through. I mean, Dookie was their breakthrough album, I think. But in terms of like me kind of falling in love with that whole genre, that was a weird segue into that. It was a fucking graduation song.
Yeah. I think I didn't start paying attention until, I think it was you, honestly, pointing out, you know, when What's My Age Again came on the radio.
Yeah, man.
Huge, like the energy, but also it was fun. You know,
they were naked in the video.
Exactly. You know, naked men is always a good thing. You know, you can never have too many naked men. And then right after that, it was, you know, hit after hit from that album.
Yeah.
And then you buy the thing, you put that CD on, and you hear Dumpweed come on, and it just hits you right in the face.
Yeah, that album single-handedly like shaped my youth through the tail end of elementary and into high school. I mean, obviously, that's when that scene really, really popularized and became what it is today. But it was that album specifically that just there was nothing like that. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, Blink invented pop punk," and they definitely didn't. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they quite potentially could have perfected it.
For sure, because there's an article in Rolling Stone a couple years ago, I remember, and it was the most influential albums of all time, and that was on there.
Enema was?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It was so, I don't know. It created this. Yeah. They incorporated it was poppy. It was really poppy.
Yeah.
Which was hated by a lot of the old school punk rockers. And loved. I remember pop punk actually being like a term that people were kind of embarrassed to use, because it was kind of, I don't know, people consider bubblegummy type of.
Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron.
It is,
right?
yeah, yeah. But I think it was the way they incorporated. It was definitely Travis Barker. Travis Barker was definitely the X factor, because it wasn't until that album where I started getting into Blink, and then that's when I was like, I started wanting to listen to kind of their older stuff too. And it was good, but it didn't have nearly the same effect or same vibe as anything Enema of the State and Beyond. And Travis Barker was definitely the X factor in that. Nothing, not to take anything away from Scott, the original drummer, but I mean, I have looked at some of the live stuff, and he was ridiculous.
Yeah, he was really good, but you know what? He was a punk drummer.
Yes,
he was a great punk drummer.
Yeah.
But Blink and that Enema of the State album is not just a great punk album.
No.
That, you know, it transitioned to that pop punk.
Yeah.
And it was very polished. And he did things that punk drummers just would not or could not do. He is incredible.
Yeah, he his speed and technicality pieces to it is just ridiculous. I think we need to shout out the fucking producer of that album, Jerry Finn. He produced so many other albums, so many other iconic albums. I need to go back and take a look, but I remember he was like, he had his name on so many of, especially even the Warp Tour around the like late 90s, early 2000s. He was producing all of that stuff.
Right.
And he just brought it all. He just knew what he was doing. He had a knack for all that. I don't know if it was timing. I'm not taking anything away from his skill, but like just the way that genre blew up in that time was kind of like the next outside of country. They're on their own, but coming out of that whole late 90s pop stuff, like, I mean, the pop punk like really took off.
It was huge. It was everywhere. And it spawned all these bands who wanted to emulate it right after that too.
Yeah, and immediately after that, because you go from Blink, I mean, and then you've got like right after that you could put in like Newfound Glory, you could put in, and The Offspring existed a little bit before that. I didn't get into The Offspring till the Americana album, I think that was called, with Pretty Fly for a White Guy. Stuff like that. Yeah.
I just listened to that the other day. That whole album's incredible.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, and then I remember being in grade 8. I remember Garrett having the original Prankster album.
Right.
And him, I think he was the one that showed me that Offspring album, and that was good too. But I still, when I think of Offspring, I still think of Americana, and I forget their album before that. It had I don't know, I can't think of the songs right now, but it had another bunch of huge hits on that one also. But yeah, no, beyond, like, right after Blink, I can't think of anything else. You got Newfound Glory. I don't know, I'm trying to think what else.
Some more CanCon, some 41.
Yeah,
All
there we
killer,
go.
no
Dude,
filler.
I can't believe I didn't even think of that. All killer, no filler. They came out in, like, that album came out when we were in, like, grade 8. So it would have been, like, 2001. So it was only, like, 3 years after Enema came out. Where was I? I was reading an article, and someone referenced their single off of the Half Hour of Power album. Makes no difference.
Yes, that's a great song. Too.
Someone referenced that as being like the most iconic pop punk song of all time. And I never looked at it like that, and I don't fully believe that, but when I heard that, I went and listened to the song, and it is like it's a banger.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Getting back to Enema though.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about Enema, what do you think is your favorite song on that album?
That's a great question.
And why?
It's a great question because I've been through so many phases with that album. If I had to pick a song, because there was a time where I thought Going Away to College was the best song in that album. I think the singles, I think All the Small Things and What's My Age Again and Adam's Song have just, although I love the songs, they've just kind of run their course, and I think I can probably blame MTV for that or the radio. I've just heard those songs so many, even today. They're played at Leaf games. They're played at
Oh, there you go. Unscripted. Here you go.
They're played at sporting events and all that stuff. I remember actually seeing a TikTok of Tom listening to All the Small Things at a Padres game.
There you go.
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Honestly, without being cliche, I would probably put Dumpweed as my favorite song on that album. However, Wendy Clear is a close number 2. I think looking at it at 35 years old now, Dumpweed is just a punch in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And I think back to being that young and never having heard anything like that before, putting on that album. And, you know, they're dropping F-bombs. There's so much energy in that.
Dude.
There's so much power from Travis. It's just incredible to have never heard anything like that and then just get hit in the face with that.
Yeah, and then that time in my life, too, I found that album so relatable. It was about, like fucking mom jokes. And it was about, like, breakups and girls. And then it was about going to parties. And it was about hanging with your bros and just all that stuff. Like it was really relatable for me, and I was just like, it kind of just shaped who I was at that time.
Right.
I don't know. It was probably Dumpweed. Definitely Dumpweed.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same thing, but I'm glad you mentioned Going Away to College, because that song I really liked. I just, you know, when you're that young, you know, you're just getting into girls. You have no idea what to do to actually get a girl at the time, and you just want to feel like that.
Yeah, and there was not really anything other than the sappy, like, Backstreet Boys stuff or the Savage Garden stuff.
Right.
Nothing made that feeling feel cool to me until, like, you'd see these 3 dudes running down Hollywood Boulevard naked, all tatted up.
After a porn star.
Yeah, chasing after a porn star, all tatted up, singing about those things or those feelings that you had. That's what kind of, like, that's what was relatable, made it relatable to me. It was things like that, and I was kind of like, oh fuck, that's how I think those guys look cool, and they're also publicly saying these things that I've thought or felt. So that's kind of what's really brought out that album to me.
Yeah, definitely relatable, and you know what, when you hear all these other types of music out there, like you're talking about the gangster rap, that kind of stuff, or you're talking about, you know, name any other genre, they all have something that was going on in their life that was real at that time, and it kind of feels stupid to talk about, all girls and going to parties. It's
Yeah.
like, but that's what we grew up with,
And that's what we did. Yeah, that's what we did. That's just what I just remember when those songs would come on at a party, though. It was just like everyone would just start belting it.
Oh yeah.
And that was a cool time. But like you said, even with the gangster rap, like even with the hip hop and stuff like that, like Chronic 2001, that I fucking loved that album. But I couldn't relate to a single lyric.
No.
At all.
No.
But I loved that album so much.
Well, 99, Eminem. That was his first album too.
Again,
Which
I could not relate to any of that.
No.
Sorry, what did you say? You think you what?
I think you showed me that album as well.
Yeah, would have been the Slim Shady LP
Yeah.
with My Name Is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was real happy about you showing me that one. Thank you.
Okay, I gotta tell you this. One time, I had this is back when we had CD players in our living rooms. My parents had a 5-disc changer CD player.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was probably you, me, and Andy were over there, and I threw in the Take Off Your Pants and Jacket album. And you know how all of those, how they originally released 3 albums, the Take Off the Pants and Jacket, and each one of them had a secret song.
Right.
I had the Grandpa song because I had the Jacket album.
What the hell was wrong with us that we thought that was okay to put on?
I'm not going to repeat the lyrics, but it was the Grandpa song. And I remember being in my room. This is in 2001, so grade 8. I remember being in my room, and my dad was listening to an album, and his album finished, and it automatically went to the second disc, and the fucking Grandpa song came on in my parents' living room. And I remember them actually losing it because they had no idea what was happening through their speakers. But that happened. I remember them actually like taking the album, and they could not believe that this was like Blink-182, like my favorite band. And they're like, what the fuck are these guys playing?
See, I couldn't even get the albums in the house for the longest time because they had the parental advisory label on it.
This is also back, though, with the parental advisory were stickers on the exterior of the shrink wrap.
Right.
Before they started actually printing them onto the album cover themselves. Because I remember purchasing Warning.
That was my problem.
The Warning album.
Yeah.
And they had started printing them on the actual cover at the time.
See, Warning is where I first had my problem. And it was my dad who was like, no, we don't want this in the house. It ends up being, he's putting it on himself. He loved that album.
That album, yeah, you know what? If we're going to touch on that album briefly right now, I think that is the most underrated Green Day album they've ever released.
I agree. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's tough because the older I get, the more I might actually put that album over Nimrod.
Yeah, you know what? Front to back, that is just an all-around solid album. And you know what? It's not obnoxious either.
No.
Like, it's a
no,
lot
it's not.
more clean guitar tones in that. And every song is solid on that.
Yeah, he's using the clean guitar. The tone's definitely different. There's less distortion. There's a lot more acoustic and a lot more harmonica. And which was really bizarre for that kind of genre. But it worked. Fuck. Billy Joe worked that in so well.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they thought they were doing with that album, but it was different. I remember it being different at the time. A lot of kind of the song intros, though, really fucking caught me off guard, though. Like, there was one where you just hear him getting...
sex, and booze.
Yeah, you just hear him getting smacked up at the beginning, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
The other big thing about Blink in that album is they were such fucking idiots. And it turned us into such fucking idiots.
Yeah.
And, it was kind of that era where you have that. You've got Jackass on MTV.
Yeah.
You've got Eminem singing about God knows what. And it was just fun and stupid and,
Yeah. Yeah, it was, Eminem really put a bunch of crazy shit.
Am I going to die right now? There's a tiger up there. There's a fucking tiger up there.
But yeah. Anyway, Eminem really, I never really owned any of his albums till later on. I don't know where I would have heard them. Probably burned albums from people at school, stuff like that. That was my first intro to Limp Bizkit, Chocolate Starfish Hot Dog Flavored Water was on like a burned album. I don't know where the fuck that came from, but that was another band that really.
We gotta save that for another day.
Yeah,
that's a whole. Other...
Yeah, that genre was a whole other conversation.
So, I think it's cool with this pop punk stuff because when you think about your musical taste, you're usually thinking about what you listen in high school, and it really changed in high school. But this era really was interesting. Like we were finding new bands, and we were still very, very young at the time. Now I gotta give. We'll talk about Andy a lot in this podcast. Andy's our third part here who, occasionally shows up. But, he had an older brother, and he was showing us some cool bands like Phoenix TX and stuff like that. And it was just fun, fast.
Yep. Yeah, he was a big NFG guy too.
Right.
Yeah, Andy's a big NFG guy. Phoenix TX. Oh my God, yeah, he loved that stuff. And then he was a big Yellow Card guy too.
Yellow Card. And we saw Yellow Card with NFG not too long ago.
Did
I think they're still going, yeah.
Yeah, we did, yes. They had the violinist.
Yes.
His violin broke, and then we realized how mediocre they were without their violinist playing.
Right.
That was actually slightly disappointing. Not to mention, it's tough to perform on any bill with Newfound Glory because even today their live performance is like so through the roof.
Them and Green Day live were always two of the best bands. I'll always love Blink.
I haven't seen Green Day live since like the mid 2000s.
With me.
Yeah, at the Air Canada Center.
Name the supporting acts. Can you do it?
I can do it. It was October Falls.
Oh, I didn't even remember that one.
October Falls was the first. Then it was Sugar Cult. Then it was Newfound Glory. And then it was Green Day.
That's a solid show.
That's a fucking solid show. I can't believe I remembered October Falls. I think they fell off the map around that time.
Probably. You know what's funny? So they did that show, and then apparently they played up here in Barrie like a month later.
Who?
On the same tour.
Green Day?
Yeah, and they played with Jimmy World.
Where? At the...
At Molson Park. My wife was there.
I'm trying to think. Was there a Molson Park at the time, or do you mean like...
There was a Molson Park at the time.
They played outdoors?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
I don't know.
Like the Molson Park
where
we went to...
when I find out shit like that from my wife. I'm supposed to know this shit.
When did Molson Park turn into the Plaza?
Oh, I don't know. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Like the Molson Park that we went to Warp Tour at.
Right.
Damn, that was 2004.
Yeah.
That tour.
Yeah.
That was the American Idiot tour.
Yeah, that was a huge album.
That was a huge album. That was a lot different too. What was before that? What did they release before that?
That was Warning.
It was Warning.
And you know what's funny? This kind of transitions us into this. That Pop Disaster tour, which was Green Day and Blink and Jimmy Eat World. And Green Day at the time was kind of falling off the map a little bit. We loved Warning.
Yep.
Not a lot of people did. It was not well received.
I didn't... See, I've always liked it, but I didn't really start enjoying that album for what it is till years later.
Right. Yeah, Green Day was not having a good time at that point. But just before that, they put out... So apparently they went on Warp Tour, which helped introduce them to a younger crowd.
What year? Is this around the Warning?
Yeah, this is right around Warning.
When did Warning come out?
I don't know.
Well, Nimrod...
Maybe we should actually do some fucking research on this shit.
We can do some research, but... I know Nimrod came out in 97, and then was there International Super Hits after that? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was. I think it went Dookie, Kerplunk, Dookie.
Insomniac.
Oh, fucking Insomniac.
Insomniac was 2 years after Dookie. And then I think it was Nimrod. And then think after Nimrod and Warning, they did international super hits.
And then in 2004, they came out with American Idiot.
Right.
Which was like his rock opera.
And he only was able to do that because he had gotten this brand new fan base, which was our generation. And the reason he was able to do that was they went out on Warped Tour. They didn't want to go out on Warped Tour, but they ended up going out on Warped Tour, getting a whole new fan base, putting out this international super hits, and then going on tour with Green Day or with Blink and Jimmy Eat World. And now they have this brand new fan base, and they're kind of seen as this elder statesman of punk rock. I
remember, I think we're off on our years. Was this before or after American Idiot?
This was just before American
Because
Idiot.
they went on the co-headlining tour with Blink, right? You talking about the Pop Disaster Tour?
Yeah.
That was 2001.
Right.
And that was with Jimmy Eat World and Cut You Up.
Cut You Up. And if you haven't seen it, if you're a big Blink and Green Day fan, you got to find this documentary. It's called Riding in Vans with Boys that you had.
It's probably on YouTube, to be honest.
I think it is.
It's probably on YouTube now, but I definitely have the DVD. And I remember purchasing that DVD in Sunrise in the mall.
Nice.
Remember that back corner was like all DVDs?
Yeah.
I remember buying it there. Only because it had Blink-182 and Green Day on it. I had no idea what the fuck that documentary was.
It was incredible.
It really was. I think it was actually better than both of Blink's documentary DVDs, like the Urethra Chronicles 1 and 2.
So fucking stupid.
I know.
So stupid. Yeah, that was a great documentary, and it was just nonsense. It was just straight up nonsense.
It was nonsense
the whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is probably on YouTube if you want to go look at it. I feel like I've made my wife watch it against her will a few times.
I have not
Sounds
done
like
that yet.
something I would do.
I've not done that yet.
Has Sam seen it?
Nope.
No way.
Nope, she hasn't. I haven't seen it in decades, probably. Like, when's the last time you watched it?
It's probably been 5 years. I throw on a couple clips here and there because I want to giggle about it. But
I honestly haven't. I don't think I've seen it in over 10 years. I don't even know if I've. Might be 20 years.
It holds up. I'm telling you, it's hilarious.
They're all still kind of doing shit too. I think we were just talking about this. Chris Cote, the singer, like I think he's like announcing like pro surfing now and stuff.
Yeah, he's skateboarding.
And skateboarding.
I was talking to my barber with this. My barber's the only guy I've ever met, other than you, who knows about it. And he was saying, he was at some skate event. I think it might have been. I don't know what it was he was talking about. And he was like, I know that voice from somewhere. And it was Chris Cote.
Yeah, I honestly, when you told me that, when you sent me that text, your barber is the only other person I've ever known to know about that DVD.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about a lot. There's going to be a lot that we're going to talk about going forward. We want to get basically to around 2011 is I feel like what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think we've probably hit around. I mean, we've referenced about 2006, but I think we can. There's a lot in between there.
Yeah. To give you an idea, we're probably going to get into a lot of the emo stuff that was very important to us in high school.
Yeah, an emo episode would be dope. So would new metal. We can even go. There's so many avenues we can take here.
We even talked about doing a little bit of digging into the hills and stuff like that. There's some great tunes that were showcased on that show and kind of had its own thing going on.
That show, to me, though, is like such a guilty pleasure. And I don't know why.
You loved it.
But I loved that show. I think, honestly, it was more so of like L.A., Hollywood living rather than...
L-I-V-I-N.
Yeah. Rather than Lauren Conrad herself.
Oh, LC.
LC. Shout out LC. Yeah, it was definitely. That's actually a really cool reference. There's so much stuff. Even right down to the bars they went to. There's definitely a bar that you and I went to on Hollywood Boulevard that I saw in the fucking hills.
Was it the Pink Taco?
It was not the Pink Taco. It was called Happy Endings. Yeah, so, it was a beer pong bar. For the record.
And it had the vending machines with the ping pong.
Yeah,
balls.
yeah.
And I was smoking menthol cigarettes.
You were smoking menthol cigarettes.
That's what you can look forward to
there you go.
On the rest of this podcast. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye then.